Good evening. Hi there. Thank you so much for your support in joining us tonight and making this event so successful. Such a wonderful community event, our first time doing this ever. On behalf of the Coalition, welcome to the 2022 State of Homelessness Address. My name is Luisa DeVideo. I am the Communication and Design Specialist with the Coalition. And we have some sobering statistics and numbers to share with you this evening, so I hope you've tipped your bartender very well. I'd briefly like to thank some of our supporters this evening, the CIC for hosting us in their space, Bayberry Beer Halt for being our bartenders tonight, Plant City for catering the event, and for all of our wonderful community sponsors, Integra, Bank RI, Tufts Health Plan, Blue Cross Blue Shield, United Way, FHL Bank Boston, Paolino Properties, the Rhode Island Foundation, Neighborhood Health Plan, Washington Trust, Jewish Alliance of Greater Rhode Island, Lifespan, Caldwell Realty, the City of Pawtucket, Ideal Residences New England, as well as Congressman David Cicilline and State Senator Joshua Miller. Again, truly, we're so grateful for community support. We truly couldn't do this work without the backing of everyone in our community. We have a few special speakers from across the housing advocacy spectrum here with us tonight, and then after which we will get right into the presentation. So from one of our biggest housing champions we have in Washington, it's my pleasure to introduce some remarks from Senator Jack Reed.
Jack Reed, and I want to thank Caitlin Fumeri, Amy Espinal, and the entire Rhode Island Coalition to End Homelessness staff for the work you do for our state's most vulnerable populations. Safe, decent, and affordable housing is the bedrock of a healthy, stable life. But too many people don't have access to this basic necessity, and a growing number of Rhode Islanders are sleeping outdoors. While our homeless population changes daily, the Coalition provides a critical snapshot through its point-in-time survey. This year's survey counted 1,577 Rhode Islanders without a place to stay during a single night in January 2022. We need to help. We need more housing across the board, more rental housing, more owner-occupied housing, and more supportive housing. And we need greater resources to help folks transition from homelessness to stable homes. With your help, I'm working hard in Congress to provide these resources by pushing for greater funding for federal emergency solution grants, continuum of care, and critical affordable housing funding streams. During the COVID-19 pandemic, I worked to secure $400 million to help people stay in their homes and over $11 million in new homelessness assistance funding. And the flexible federal funding that I secured under the American Rescue Plan is now helping Governor McKee and the General Assembly invest $250 million in housing, including $36 million that will go to homelessness assistance and infrastructure. This is a huge first step in our renewed efforts to house and help every Rhode Islander experiencing homelessness. But this can't be and won't be the end of our homelessness and housing efforts. It will take hard work and leadership from organizations like the Rhode Island Coalition to End Homelessness. And so, I look forward to continuing this work with all of you to meet this important challenge. Thank you.
Thank you to Senator Reed and his whole team for those remarks. At the Coalition, we hold personal lived experience of homelessness to the highest regard. Our work is driven, directed, and corrected by folks with lived experience. And to share a personal story from her life, we have the Coalition's brand new program coordinator for the Domestic Violence Bonus Program, Samantha Burnett.
I apologize that I'm wearing my coat. I'm a little chilly. It's probably because of my nerves, but thank you everybody for being here. And Senator Reid, thank you for the continued support. My name is Samantha Burnett. My pronouns are she, her, hers. And I'm the new program coordinator for the domestic violence program at the Coalition. I became homeless because I left an abusive marriage. Upon my leaving, my husband canceled my cell phone service and drained all of our bank accounts. I couldn't individually afford the apartment we lived in, and honestly, I wouldn't have gone back if I could. I didn't go to the police because they would take my children. We used campgrounds as our shelter and moved around before anyone caught on to what we were really doing there. Every morning, I would get the kids up and head them to summer camp or school, and then I'd go to work. I was a marketer for a high-end retirement community, making about $280 a week. In the winter, we lived where we could, a friend's camper, a garage, and sometimes when luck ran out, we slept in my car. I applied for food stamps, medical and child care assistance. I was grateful for these and many other programs. My children were guaranteed 2 meals a day, and we were provided gym scholarships, which guaranteed a daily shower and playtime in a safe environment. There was a long wait for Section 8 vouchers in public housing, and we faced other obstacles. Due to non-payment of the apartment, I now had an eviction and hundreds of dollars owed. It made it almost impossible to rent, having an eviction on record that went to collections and showed an unsettled judgment. I also had collection agencies call me, threatening jail and garnishing my wages. I'm so sorry. At the end of most days, I would leave work only to find my husband, my abuser, waiting for me next to my car. It was exhausting. There was no peace living in survival mode. I was afraid to go to the police knowing they would take my kids away. So I dealt with the bill collectors, the abuse, the stalking for months, because I thought that was the life handed to me and I deserved it. But I didn't. And one day I woke up to believe that. And here's where I am now. I'm a homeowner of an 1,800 square foot house on a 5,000 square foot lot worth more than $500,000. My name is on that title and everything. I still have a hard time believing that, and I like to look sometimes to make sure it's still there. I divorced my abuser and got free. 14 years later, I remarried an incredible man, for the exception that he likes the Yankees. We also share a son, and let me tell you, it sure is nice having another parent around. My other 2 children that I talked about earlier, they're both college educated. The oldest owns a business, and the other is studying to be a math teacher. I'm a fellow at Rhode Island Women's Policy Institute and served as a board member for the Blackstone Valley Advocacy Center. For work, I am a certified paralegal and work for the Coalition, where I manage legal clinics for people experiencing homelessness, helping them overcome barriers to shelter by expunging evictions, criminal records, landlord minimum housing issues, and coordinating resources with our team of volunteer attorneys. So that's my story. I needed people to fight for me and my kids when I had little or no fight left. I needed programs to help me rebuild myself and to end my homelessness once and for all. There's no way I would have gotten out of that without advocates fighting for programs and better conditions to ensure both myself and my children had safe and sustainable housing even after I wasn't homeless anymore. I could focus on healing and evolving because we had shelter and we were finally safe. There are so many more of us that need you out there. They need you to provide equitable communities and opportunities so they have a chance to end the cycle of systemic discrimination that comes with experiencing homelessness. We need you to raise your voice when somebody calls us a waste. We need you to love us where we're at, to challenge us to be more. We need funding for programs to allow agencies like Sojourner House, Safe Haven, Blackstone Valley Advocacy Center, Warm Center, Amos House, Crossroads, and many more to be fully equipped to help people end the cycle of homelessness. We need every one of you listening to this because housing is a human right and you indeed are the key. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sam, for that really powerful personal story and sharing that with us tonight. Rhode Island has taken some really bold steps to end homelessness in our state, legislatively speaking, but we still have a very far way to go. And so from the front lines of this legislative work, I'm honored to introduce Secretary of Housing, Josh Shaw.
Thank you, and thank you, Sam, for sharing your story. I wish it was a more rare story, but there are many, many voices out there, many who are unheard and do not have an opportunity to share their story. And when we think about how many of those people are facing these structural barriers, are not being able to live fulfilling lives and be part of society because no one was born homeless, they become homeless. And that's a sign of our failure as society to make the right interventions, to help them out, our failure as neighbors, our failure as a community. So I am veering a little bit off my remarks, I have to admit right now, but I wanted to first say I'm here on behalf of the governor and the administration, that I want to thank all of you for joining us this evening. And thank you to Coalition to End Homelessness and Caitlin and the whole team for inviting me here today. More importantly, I want to thank everyone here who works on the front lines, whether that's out there on the street doing street outreach or in the office making sure that the operation side works. It really does take more than just government or a single nonprofit or even a collection of nonprofits to address homelessness. And we can do this by working together. Most importantly, I have to say, since arriving here in January, I've been inspired. I've been inspired by all the people who are actively working with us, not just with passion, but with commitment and intelligence. And it really makes us work harder. I can say, as someone who is often at the State House with the governor, we know we have the community here to do this, and we have the commitment. And my office is working alongside the organizations like the Coalition to execute on plans and address the complex drivers of homelessness and strengthen our housing system to serve the most vulnerable populations through permanent housing. With Governor McKee at the helm and trusted partners, including Lieutenant Governor Matos, who is very passionate about this as well, we have dedicated leadership that views housing as central to solving homelessness. This is not just through the funding we made available, but through the day-to-day work, where we're looking nonstop at the data, working with our providers, troubleshooting, and trying to make the changes. Sometimes they're very small, but very significant. Those interventions throughout our system to address the pressing issues that make huge differences for people who are experiencing homelessness at any time and moment. This is critical, and it's a year-round issue. It gets more attention in the winter because people face temperatures that can face hypothermia, hospitalization, or worse. As much as I want to say that we are making progress, there's still plenty of work left to do. That said, we are working with and collaborating with providers, municipal leaders across the state to invest in the infrastructure, services, and support to ensure unhoused individuals and families seeking resources that they can find a safe, warm place to sleep. Not forgetting, though, that our goal is to prevent homelessness, and that when it can be prevented, we have to ensure that it's rare, brief, and non-recurrent. As mentioned, the long-term solution to homelessness is building more housing, especially supportive housing that serves vulnerable populations who are most likely to become homeless or already homeless. We have to build more housing, but we know that's not going to happen overnight. In the short term, we've made some immediate investments to expand our shelter capacity. This year, we funded 274 beds and expect to announce more beds, and we're also working with our sister agencies in the Health and Human Services to work with providers and activate the street outreach teams that are doing such an amazing job and engage individuals where they're at. Whether that means that they want shelter that night or that they might just need a warm pair of gloves to get through that night. We must meet them where they're at and offer them holistic support. However, shelter beds in themselves are not the goal. They're a sign of larger structural issues. The need to increase our shelter bed count means that more people are entering the system than are exiting the shelter system. This must change. The housing market here in Rhode Island has changed, and vulnerable populations are getting hit the hardest by the increasing housing cost burdens. Our long-term mission to fix, build, and stabilize Rhode Island's housing stock will create more available units, including for those populations, and really up the ante on the services and supports that address the drivers of homelessness, housing insecurity. A few weeks ago, we committed $9.5 million to expand legal services and housing security to support Rhode Islanders across the state. We know that offering legal services to households at risk of homelessness works. Previously, we worked in administering legal services programs in Providence County, and we are looking to expand that throughout the state. During this calendar year alone, the program served to provide more than $825,000 in legal support to an estimated 2,700 households across the state. Those households could have become homeless if it were not for those interventions. Now, what we're doing with this RFP is taking a strategy in the legal services, it's taking a strategy that we know works and significantly expanding it. However, this is a start, and the work that we need to do to address homelessness involves much more than legal services. It involves creating that permanent housing, supportive housing, and solutions that will make homelessness rare and brief. We look forward to continuing with all the organizations that are here today, with the coalition, with our sister agencies, in the weeks to come, in the months to come, in the years to come. Because none of this we didn't get here overnight, and we're not going to solve this overnight, but we have the dedication, the commitment, and I'm confident that we'll get there with people like Caitlin, with the coalition, really everyone in this room who is so dedicated and has shown that commitment.